Briahna Joy Gray was recently on George Galloway's show. And I know that she's not as popular in my circles as she used to be, but she's still someone who I think has some credibility with the brunch liberal cadre. And so for that reason, I think it's good when people like her speak truth. And she did a little bit of that in this interview. So we're going to talk about it.
The enthusiasm that was generated around the DNC has started to wane. They were branding the enthusiasm spike as a sort of brat summer reference to a popular album over the summer, but that doesn't seem like there's much of a plan for what's going to happen in the fall. And I do think that the panic is well-founded when you look at certain polling data, which shows, for instance, that Kamala Harris remains behind in all of the swing states. And additionally, that she's tied with Jill Stein, 26% to 26% among Muslim voters, who might be the determinants of the election outcome in states like Michigan, which are must win for Kamala Harris. So yes, I do think that you can read into some of the news focus right now, a kind of vulnerability and insecurity from the Democratic Party, which makes me less bullish on Kamala Harris than I might have been if you had asked me what I think is probably going to happen just a couple of weeks ago.
Brat summer, according to Bree, is over. Sorry, Brat summer. Brunch Republicans against Trump have taken over your summer. And in this next bit, I want to focus on where basically at this point, Galloway says the election is pretty much Trump's to lose or win at this point, which I would kind of agree with. We'll see if he smartens up, but listen to
this. It's Trump's prize to win. He can only lose it. No, the Democrats will not be able to win it.
Well, I agree with parts of that and not others. I do think there are a lot of Green Party voters who are Green Party voters or independent voters first and foremost, who might have voted for Bernie and been brought into the Democratic Party because of Bernie Sanders, but are not typically Democratic voters. Bernie performed better than any other candidate in that very crowded 2020 race with independents, and has that particular appeal. And I don't think it's a one-to-one of Jill Stein voters who would otherwise have voted for the Democrat, Kamala Harris, especially in the context of the war in Gaza, which is such a key issue for so many people in this race in particular. I would point out that in 2016, there were more people in Michigan who voted and left the top of the ballot blank. In other words, went to the polls, stood in line, voted for all the down ballot candidates, but refused to vote for Hillary Clinton, then were needed for Hillary to win in that state. So in other words, there were people who wanted to vote and who even wanted to vote for Democrats down ballot, but uniquely didn't want to vote for that candidate. So the idea that the Green Party vote is dispositive in these elections isn't entirely true. There was a similar statistic back in 2000 with Ralph Nader, where more registered Democrats in Florida voted for George Bush than voted for the Green Party. So there's a lot of interesting stuff happening there electorally. I do agree that most RFK Jr. voters were likely to vote for the Republican and the alternative anyway, but I also share your concern that RFK Jr. could have done something really interesting. He could have used the dissatisfaction with the two major candidates at the time, Donald Trump and Joe Biden, to build a third party, to build something institutionally that...
Okay, that's kind of what he did. Like, this is the thing about RFK that bugs me. There's definitely some liberal derangement over RFK because he did all that. He actually did try to run as a third party, as an independent, and they sued him off the ballot like they're doing to Jill Stein now, Bree. So I don't know. This is the thing I think that bothers me a little bit about Bree and just some of the online pundits and RFK. Yeah, he's shitty on Israel. They all are. So, you know, when I criticize RFK, I will criticize that he's one of the worst actually on Israel, but they're all bad. You know, it's just the Democrats market themselves better with it. They pretend that they're better at it. They do these like kind of like virtue signaling moves, like Biden banned one shipment of weapons to Israel, like in the middle of the night that they didn't care about anyway, or whatever. And then they run that as if they're like some kind of an actual opposition. At least RFK and Trump are kind of open about their vehement support for Israel. And again, Trump was president. I saw how he was with Israel. I'm not one of those people who's under the impression that he's going to be different on Israel than any of them, because he's very clearly bought by those interests. But by the same token, he has expressed, he has, talked back to Netanyahu. Trump is actually, arrogant enough and self-centered enough that he can't be bullied around as much by these lobbies as other politicians can. So there is that side of it. Well, let's just listen to Bree finish up her take on RFK.
That lasted longer than his individual run, that really presented a challenge to the duopoly. And he chose not to do that. He chose to run as an independent outside of a party structure, lacking the infrastructure to have longevity, making it more difficult to get on the ballot. Now he picked
again, she's like, what did you want him to do, Bree? Like he pretty much, it was pretty obvious that he chose Shanahan as a running mate for the money factor, because to keep up with these major parties on any level, you have to have money, so he did everything he could. I think he was a very, what's the word? Like adroit, I guess, politician in that respect, And Shanahan was actually pretty open about the fact that she was funding him. He was pretty transparent about all that too. So I don't get what Bree's argument is here against RFK, other than maybe she doesn't like him, and so she just wants to like be shitty about it. But
billionaire as his VP, which made it a lot easier for him to get on the ballot than it was for someone like, let's say, Cornel West, who's been really struggling in that regard, because it does take a lot of money. This is fundamentally a money game. It's what's so unfortunate.
Cornel West struggle, though, too. Again, that's an unfair comparison, because Cornel West was clearly never serious. His struggle was with himself. He could have ran in the Green Party. He was invited to. He was going to, and then he hired Peter Dow and told, argued with Jimmy Dore instead of trying to unite, working class people. He's an idiot. I loved Cornel West too. Look at old videos of me pimping Cornel. Oh, Cornel West is the best choice. I did a song about it with clips of him on Stephen Colbert. I was a total mark for Cornel West. And then Jimmy Dore interviewed him, and Jimmy Dore, like it or not, has been 1000% accurate about all of his criticisms of the progressive movement and the Democratic Party in general. So, say what you want again, Bree, but like this criticism of RFK just doesn't make any sense
about politics in this country. That being said, it wasn't enough. He obviously ultimately capitulated. He has a disastrous record on Israel, which I think probably cost him his really amazing first campaign manager, who was Dennis Kucinich, who has been very consistent.
She's right about that. But again, what do you expect the guy to do at this point? The Democrats are the ones who ejected him off the ballot. So I think the decision that he made here was the right one. And, say whatever you want about RFK. He's going to be a better choice than Kamala Harris. Trump is going to be a better choice for RFK. Why would RFK caucus with the Democrats after they did everything in their power to kick him off the ballot and dead a primary that he tried to run in? It just doesn't make any sense. And she's like, well, he didn't, her criticisms fall flat because he did everything she said he should do. He did try to build a movement outside the two-party system, and they sued him off the ballots and smeared him as having brain worms and all kinds of stuff, And so with the Israel thing, it's almost like it's the last issue you should discuss with any of these people, because they all agree on it. So there's no daylight on that particular issue for any of them. Like I said before, Harris and Biden just market themselves better as like but they're in power now and they're not doing anything. So you can tell that they're full of shit. And so it's kind of like the Israel thing is almost like used as a divided when it forces you to not look at the rest of the issues, which RFK and Trump are a lot better on than Israel. So, and again, I still think Trump is a little bit more of a wild card there than the other candidates, just because of who he is as a person.